This show is also based on Lakota star knowledge concepts, and the main one is reality begins within, because this is the way the universe was created. So, this also means that before you can understand the universe out there, you've got to understand the universe inside of you first. Yeah, because this is where reality begins. And this includes taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, as these four parts are connected to each other deep inside of you, and that's your sacred center. So when you live this way, eventually you're going to establish peace in your life. You're going to, part of this process includes getting to know yourself, coming to peace, with the difficulties from your past, so that there's no more emotional attachments to them. You have no gripes or regrets or grudges or anything. You think on it and it just doesn't make you feel anything because you're at peace with it. And you learn from the situation. Yeah, that's the part of coming to peace with it, is that you learn from that situation, so that that knowledge is going to help you, to become wise. And as you're doing this, all that emotional baggage, or whatever that was kind of bringing you down, that's going to start leaving. As you do this process, that's going to start leaving. The reason why is because peace is pushing it out. Yeah, you're bringing in peace. So this is basically the real basics, yeah, of everything. And when you do this, see, you are also establishing a contact with a grandmother Earth, because when you were conceived, part of a grandmother Earth went inside your body, and it's located in that sacred center. So um, when you live this way, you're communicating as an ikje wichasha, or an ikje wiya, a human man or a human woman. Yeah, you're not communicating as a nationality or a race, or from your religion or whatever. You're communicating as you, as this is the most important thing. This is where reality begins. So, as I said, part of this process includes taking time to know yourself. Yeah, and this is what leads to, discovering, the things that are bothering you from your past, and that helps you to, this whole way of living helps you to come to peace with those things, as I said already. But the part I wanted to focus on was this part of getting to know yourself. See, you're taking the time to do that. Now, that is going to become a pattern for you in everything that you encounter for the first time. Yeah, you're not too sure what it is. You might have an idea, but you're not 100%. So you take the time to check it out. If this is something you've never experienced before in your life, you take the time to check it out before making a decision. This way, you have a really good foundation for your decision. Yeah, that's part of living a healthy life. Now, people who don't do this, they don't have peace in themselves. Yeah, they don't. Excuse me. They don't take the time to know themselves, and so when they encounter something, they judge it without taking the time to check it out. Yeah, they look for peace outside of themselves. See, they're going the opposite direction. Yeah, they're trying to find peace outside of themselves, and when they'll get extreme about it, then they make up these stories and say, yeah, I traveled, I made this what do you call it, intergalactic travel space chair here, and when I sit back there, all I gotta do is lean back and say, Uga chaga, uga, uga, uga chaga 4 times, and then next thing you know, shoot, I'm gone, I'm clear out there on the other side of the universe, and I'm visiting a planet called Deikote, and where the people are 20 feet tall and they have blue skin, and then they start describing that movie Avatar, yeah. And you see, they're looking for something out there when it really that's not the flow, yeah. That's going against the flow, and that's not going to work, because as you do that, the more that you do that, you start losing whatever you had inside of yourself. Yeah? And when you go extreme with this way of thinking, then you lose all your substance, and then you become what is known as ganashkia. You are nuts. Yeah, you are really, really, you've lost it. Yeah, and we have stories about that. Yeah, and with animals, particularly the buffalo. When sometimes in the buffalo herd there's a bull that's just really mean. He just like a dictator, and he has his group terrorized. Yeah, and if they try to get away from him, he will attack them until either they submit or he kills them. And he's very, very brutal. And when hunters see one like this, they shoot it, and it's really hard to bring down. It stands there. Yeah, it takes a lot of arrows, and it doesn't do anything. Yeah, it just stands there. And finally, after dealing with it for several hours, they're finally able to bring it down. And when they cut it open, the stories go, there's nothing in there. This is Ganashkian. He's lost. Yeah, he lost his substance. See, this is supposed to tell you that when you look for the truth out there, or in some book, or some rock, or some location, you're going the wrong direction. And if you keep doing that, eventually you're going to be Ganashkian. Yeah, so you have to be careful. That's why in Lakota Star Knowledge it says you go within. Yeah, this is the key to everything, going within. Everything is inside of you. And as you discover that, you start to become more peaceful. Yeah, you're also this way of life keeps you in the present moment, so that you can face your difficulties when they do come, because they will come. That you'll be able to face them better. Yeah? That you'll be able to, learn from them more effectively, and become blessed for it. Because once you learn from a difficulty and make the best out of it and make the most out of it, that turns into blessings. Yeah, those blessings include and are not limited to wisdom, knowledge, peace. Yeah, it's going to make you so that as you get older, you're going to be able to help others as you acquire these things. Yeah, through difficulty. So difficulty, it is not seen in a bad light. It's just difficulty. It's just difficulty. We don't label it. You don't categorize it as, good or bad. It's just a part of life. Yeah, and this helps us, yeah, because this helps us to live with nature. It helps us to exist. It helps us to be. Yeah, so it's not about the destination. It's the actual journey. Yeah, it's living in the present moment. And when you do this influences your future. This is where you have power over your future. So the more that you're in your present moment, and if you're living a healthy life, yeah, and staying in the present moment, you're influencing your future in a healthy way. Yeah, so And even if difficulties come to thwart it, you still know how to deal with it. And when you deal with it in a healthy way, it's always going to lead you to a situation that's going to be nice. And sometimes it's going to be even nicer than what you were hoping for. Yeah? So this is why we don't, traditionalists don't see these things as trials and tribulations. No, it's just a part of life. This happens in nature. Yeah. Sometimes there's really beautiful things, and sometimes there's not so beautiful things, and it just happens. So it's not about, okay, I'm going to live good so that only good things will happen. This doesn't happen in nature. Yeah, that's not the way nature works. The universe does not work like that because there are so many variables in play, and you can't just because you say I'm going to live good so only good things are going to happen. You know that that's that's either showing disrespect to other variables that you don't control, or you're living in denial. Yeah, so it's really an unhealthy view to say that, okay, I'm going to live good all my life so that my reward is going to be this way. Then you're missing everything because your reward is right in front of you. Yeah, and the more healthy you are, the more you see it, and the more beautiful it is. So it's up to you. Yeah, life is just what you make of it. So this is the kind of thought process that's involved in Lakota Star Knowledge, spirituality, is that it's not a religion, it's a way to live. It's a lifestyle. And it does not have to include ceremonies or prayers or sacred items or songs. It all depends on how you live. Yeah? How do you live? How do you communicate? How do you receive communication? Yeah, because communication is going back and forth. It's not just what you do; it's also what you intake. Yeah, what do you think when something is said to you, or you hear something, or you touch something, and it makes you feel a certain way? See, this is incoming. Yeah, you're receiving communication, listening. That's also receiving communication. It goes both ways. Yeah, so the way you do this, yeah, it's really going to influence your life too. And again, just because you do all this in a healthy way doesn't mean only good things are going to happen. That doesn't mean that. It means that as you do these things in a healthy way, you develop more and you gain wisdom. Yeah, and you will see that there's a lot of beauty in this life. Yeah, so this is what it's focusing on. This foundation. Yeah, how do we live our lives? How do we communicate? How do we receive communication? Yeah, it includes a lot of things in our bodies. Yeah, our bodies teach us a lot of things, and we're not even aware of it. Like our lungs. Yeah, we inhale and we exhale. We do both. We need to do both, or we're going to turn all kinds of colors and eventually die. Yeah, and so we need to do both. And our bodies are telling us something about that. Yeah, our lungs are teaching us something about that, and that is that we need to give, and we need to learn how to receive. So a lot of people say it's better to give than to receive. Well, if that was true, then whoever's receiving, that activity is being less than, because you said it's better to give. See what I mean? It doesn't make sense. In Lakota Star Knowledge, you do both. You give and you receive. You ask for help and receive help. I think that's almost the same thing. And you give help. Yeah? So you give help and you receive help. And receiving help is part of that is asking for help. We're supposed to do both. We're designed this way. But if we only focus on one part, then that's going to lead us to an imbalance. That's like only exhaling. Eventually, your face is going to blow up, yeah? Or, or just holding your breath. It's not going to work. You have to inhale and exhale. Yeah. See, so just focusing on one side of it this is what's going to lead to duality. Duality is when you see something and you look at it, and first of all, Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that to every situation there's at least 3 perspectives. Okay. So from a theoretical situation would be 100%. Each component, let's say in this theoretical situation there are 3 perspectives. So that means each piece is going to represent 1/3. That is 33%. Actually 33.333, bunch of 3%. Yeah. In duality, a person looks at a situation and just, finds something good about it, maybe, and it looks at the whole situation, thinking, that there's only 2 parts, but actually there's 3. The dualistic person is going to say, okay, I like this part, the rest of it's bad. So what he's really done is he's only accepted 1/3 and rejected 2/3. So from that situation, he rejects 67% and only accepts 33%. So from the reality of that situation, he's only taking in 33%. And that he calls good. The 67% he labels as bad. See, now he's labeling good and bad, good versus evil. And he says, this is the good part, this is my part. If you don't agree with me, then you belong to that bad part. Yeah? This piece that I have is showing that what I believe is correct, everything else is wrong. That I am smarter. If you don't agree with me, you are dumb. I am good. If you don't agree with me, you are evil. If I cannot prove to you that you are evil, then I shall destroy you. That is my right to do so, to make this earth remain a good place. You must be destroyed. Can you just see all the religions that come from that way of thinking? This is duality. Yeah? And then they're going to say, my culture is, see, the thing is, your culture, I'll tell you what's wrong with your culture, and then what the person's doing is judging other cultures by his culture standards. That's ethnocentrism, and that leads to racism. And then when he says, since I'm smart, and all you got to do is do it my way, and everything will work. And he's being paternalistic here. And then, of course, he builds his, he builds a system, that is so unique to the point where he says that the originator of this concept is a omnipotent, all-knowing, all-seeing, almighty being who is perfect, and that when we follow this way, we will be perfect too after we die. But first you have to follow it when you're here on this earth. And then your reward will be mansions, and streets paved in gold, and the land of milk and honey, where you'll be forever happy. And it'll never be dark. It'll only be light. See, it's really pushing just to be us on one side. This is creating stress automatically. You know, it's creating evil. See, this is man-made. And this is the foundation of religion. And this is used to control people. It's used to subdue people. It's used to limit people, to keep them from, investigating nature. It keeps them from freeing themselves. It's like, boy, I had the thought in my mind as I was saying it, and by the time I got done with the sentence, it went. Oh, shoot. I hate that when that happens. But it's basically it is using various tools to stop you from developing emotionally. See, if you can stop a person from developing emotionally, then automatically that person cannot develop spiritually. That's how that works. They're connected to each other. Yeah? The emotions and the soul are really connected to each other. So if you can stop a person from developing emotionally, you control his spirituality. That's what religion does. Yeah, by giving you false ideas that are going to sound really good to you. And the way they do this is by certain things called fallacies. These are techniques that lawyers use to win cases in court. One of them is appeal to emotion. This is where one tactic they use, they'll say, they're going to find out, who did you really love, whether it's a family member or a pet or a former boyfriend or husband or wife or whatever, and they want to find out, who the dead people are in your family that you really love. They want to find, that's one of the first things they look for when they start on you. And then they're going to say, they're in this place called whatever, and they're waiting for you. And they've accepted this message already, and they want you to accept it too, so that, later you'll join them. But first they get to your emotions. They get you to start thinking about that person, so you start crying, and and this is where they can introduce ideas to you that capture you and keep you in that emotion. Now they've just stopped your learning process when they've done that. Because as I said earlier, when you learn from a difficulty, when you make the best of it, part of that process includes expressing those emotions, as long as you don't hurt anybody, including yourself. And then, you cleanse yourself from that, so that energy is out, because that when you're expressing that emotion, you're releasing energy that needs to come out. That's paving the way for peace to come into your life. So what's happening is the emotion is on the move. It's not supposed to stay in you. It's part of a process. That's all it is. It's part of a learning process and nothing more. So, What religions do is they keep you in that emotion. Yeah, to keep you there. And when you keep that emotion, you think it's love, but it's not. It's just an emotion. And you're trapped in it. You're trapping yourself in it. And once you're trapped, you cannot develop spiritually, and you cannot have peace in your life. You can only develop spiritually and have peace in your life when you let go of that emotion by expressing it and start making the best of that situation. But religion stops you from doing that. Yeah? By keeping you in that emotion all the time. So this is that's why I said it's enslaves. Yeah, it gets you to enslave yourself. And they always say, that if you talk to the leaders of these religions and they say, well, we're not forcing anybody to believe, anything. But yeah, they are. They're using a scare tactic. The scare tactic is, if you don't do this, you end up in a place where you'll never see your family again forever. And some go extreme by throwing in the fire and brimstone argument as well. Forever. Yeah? There's no coming back. It's a scare tactic. How is that love? Yeah? To scare somebody to love you? Don't think that works. In fact, I know it doesn't work. So, this is duality. Yeah? Then you have other groups that do this same process, but they use a different emotion. Hatred. He said you're terrorists. Yeah? Or they bombard you with, rhetoric, saying, this. Look at what look at what these green people did to your ancestors, and they're still doing it today, and we have to, and it's see, or it might even still be a religion too. Yeah, this religion will be saying, look at what this other religion is doing to you. Look at what they've done to our people. Look at what they're still doing to our people. And they show videos and all kinds of things. And what a lot of these groups do is they deprive you of things. Yeah, they deprive you of things that you need. Whether it's certain foods or contact with certain people or literature or whatever. They deprive you of things and say things to you over and over. They use emotions. I mean, they may get you to stay in a certain emotion. Next thing you know, you're believing what they're saying as the actual truth. And 2 months later, you got some bomb strapped to yourself, and you're gonna go blow up someplace so you can have a bunch of virgins after you die. Look at the whole thing. You're promised 72 virgins. What is that? What is that saying? What's the emphasis there? It's not love. It's sex. Yeah? 72 virgins. My goodness. Yeah? It's when you really think about it, when you are deprived of certain things, you start to accept this as reality. Yeah? And then next thing you know, you think you know everything. Actually, you only could comprehend 33% of reality at the most. See, if a situation has 5 perspectives, a dualistic person still only accepts 1. That's 20%. which means from that situation he rejects 80%. You see what I mean? So the highest percentage of reality that a dualistic person can comprehend is 33%. This is why they're so thick-headed. You can talk your face blue explaining things to somebody, and it just doesn't register because they're not capable of registering it. They're dualistic. It's rare when you can see a person, actually pushes dualistic boundaries than to come out of it. It's rare, but it is possible. But you have to be careful that you don't become dualistic in the process by saying he's wrong. You see what I mean? So dualism is a part of life that we need to learn so that we recognize it and then make it work for us. Meaning either we add something to it or we adjust it or, do whatever so that it works and it's not duality anymore. Because if you run away from it, you become dualistic. Still. That's the danger. Yeah. So that's how we see it. Yeah. And in the early days of the reservation, we went through a process where, I'm talking late 1800s here. When we were put on reservations, we couldn't leave. We were told to stay there. We were not allowed to have weapons of any kind, so we couldn't hunt. Yeah, so all we were given was food from the American government, which was really unhealthy foods. And as a result, all over America, we developed diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. Yeah, our bodies are just becoming sick. And some are becoming alcoholics. They're getting addicted to alcohol. We are missing an enzyme. Native American people and Asians are missing an enzyme in our bodies. And because of this lack of this certain enzyme, it's incredibly easy for American Indians and Asians to become alcoholics. So we started becoming addicted to alcohol next. So we're hit physically. Then America says our language is illegal and our ceremonies are illegal. April 10th, 1883. That was a law. So since in public we could not speak our language, we start taking a hit emotionally. We couldn't do our ceremonies, we start taking a hit spiritually. So we got hit in 3 of the 4 parts of the self. Again, the 4 parts of the self are the physical body, the emotions, the soul, and the mind. And we got hit in 3 at once at the beginning of the reservation. Yeah, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. That meant the 4th part went down too, and we became mentally weak. So by the time the priests came on the reservation, we were really weak-minded. And they took advantage of that. This is the same condition that cult leaders, terrorist groups, and the like bring their new recruits to. This condition. Because it's easy to control people when they're physically sick, emotionally sick, spiritually sick, because their minds become weak. So you can take things that they already know and twist them into new definitions. That's what happened on the reservation. So things like Wakantanka got transformed to mean God. That's not the true definition. Wakantanka is an organization of many individuals, male and female. Animals, one has no gender, one has both genders. Yeah, that's one of the Wakantanka groups. And there's a second one. And neither one of them is the good one or the bad one. They just work different ways. They're both called Wakantanka, these organizations. It doesn't mean God. Another one was Unshimala. They transformed that to mean have pity on me. And that's not what it means. Unshimala means help me. I really need help. And when you help that person, see, that act of helping is a healthy communication. And when you do something, whatever energy you have in doing that activity of helping somebody, that energy is going to come back to you 4 times as strong. So if it's healthy, it's going to come back to you 4 times as strong and bless you somehow when you least expect it. That's the natural law of generosity. That's Wawokye. Okay? So, when somebody asks you for help and you help that person willingly, you're putting this law into motion. You're going to get blessed for it. And plus the person who said Unshimala to you, he got help, or she got help, and you're going to be blessed for that. So you're going to receive more blessings because it's going to return to you 4 times as strong. That's Unshimala. It's an invitation for blessings to fall upon those who help you. That's a beautiful concept. And the Christian priests changed that to have pity on me. You see, they invaded our language. They put a virus in our language and made it enslave us. If we believe the Christian definitions to these words, we're enslaving ourselves. See, that's the kind of brainwashing that happened in the late 1800s. So we began to accept what the priests were saying. So all our star knowledge stories were regarded as from the devil because they contradicted the Bible. The priest said their star knowledge is from the devil. Yeah? So this is the reason why today, after 7 generations, most Lakota people don't know Lakota star knowledge. And when they hear it, they don't want to believe it. Because it's not familiar to them. They're familiar with Bible concepts or good versus evil concepts because that's the world they've grown up in. Children who were born in the early 1900s were born in strong Christian homes. That's all they knew. Those are our elders today. The people that are in their hundreds, if there's any left. The people in their 80s were born in the 1930s. And it was really strong Christian influence all over most reservations. Most Indians were Christians. They went to boarding school. They were made ashamed to be Indian. A lot of kids were killed in these boarding schools by sadistic teachers. They were molested by teachers who were perverts. There's a lot of unmarked graves in these schools. And those that made it through, they didn't really survive. They had like a post-traumatic stress disorder. And they tried their best to hang in there, but all they knew was Christian-influenced ways of thinking. And they didn't know how to parent because, they told them their parents died, so they stayed at these schools all year round. In most cases, the parents were not even dead. The schoolmaster said that to make sure that they don't run away from these boarding schools. So these are your elders today. Yeah? They are not the connection to the ancient past. They are the connection to when brainwashing was happening on the reservations. And this, like I said, this is their way of thinking is really dualistic, because that's what they learned. That's all they were exposed to in these schools. So when they became parents, all they knew is that they didn't want their children to experience what they did. So they didn't teach them the language, what little they knew. They didn't teach them the stories, what little they knew. And what little they did know was Christian influenced. Yeah? So this is why today most people cannot speak their own language. And what cultural information they do know is really Christianized, meaning it's dualistic. It's not the same as the ancestors. You just go on Facebook and you see people saying, "Yeah, Wakantanka is showing me my path. I just need to find it." See, this is a Christian way of talking. This is not Lakota, because Wakantanka is not God. You see what I mean? So, what you have today is a lot of Lakota people believing a lot of misinformation, a lot of perverted stories, and this is why most Lakota people are going to disagree with what I say on this show. On this show, my information is coming from Lakota Star Knowledge, and it talks about things that most Lakota people don't know. They're going to disagree with it, but I don't care. I'm not out to please people. I'm not out to become the popular one. I'm going to be the one they hate. I totally expect that. I'm going to be the one that they laugh at. I'm going to be the one that they make fun of. I totally expect that. I know it's going to happen, and I know it is happening. But it doesn't bother me, because I represent the ancestors. Yeah, and what they're saying is that reality begins within. It doesn't matter if you're an Indian or a white person or a black person or whatever kind of exterior you have. That's not the important part. We were not created in these skin colors. Lakota Star Knowledge says in the beginning there was one continent, and humans appeared in 5 locations. And as they started intermingling and settling on various parts of this continent, their bodies began to adapt to the ecosystems. And part of that adaptation process included skin color developing because of people's relation to the distance of the sun, because of the environment. This is how skin color started to develop. So we were not created in skin colors. That's what Lakota Star Knowledge says. Yeah? So this is, again, this is, like I said, a lot of people are going to not agree with this, and that's fine with me. But this is in Lakota Star Knowledge. This is in the stories. Yeah? So this is what I based the show on. And I didn't mean to make this intro this long, yeah? I was going to try to sum it up in about 10 minutes at chunk. That means in here. I went over an hour. Oh my goodness. Almost an hour. Anyway, this story is, this show is based on original concepts that are here. I'm not the only one that knows this information. There's others like me. Yeah, but we're few, because most people don't want to hear this. Most Lakota people don't want to hear this. And when they do, they disagree with it because they are Christian influenced. Now, I'm not against Christianity, because I see that as a learning process for the people. That might help somebody learn. Yeah, Somebody might need to, go through that so they realize what it is, and then they say, "Oh, geez, this really does limit you." Yeah, and then they can see, then they might search for something more, and that's a good thing. That's why I said it can be part of a learning process for somebody. Yeah, for example, it might stop somebody from getting drunk. It might stop somebody from abusing themselves or somebody else or others. Yeah, that might be just part of a learning experience because, like I said, duality is a learning experience. And as long as you see it that way, then you'll make it work for you. And you're not a victim to it. You see what I mean? So, anyway, so the information I tell on this show is based on really old stories, and these stories have no good versus evil element in them. They have no God or Satan aspect. There's no heaven. There's no hell. It teaches that the most important moment is right now, because it's happening. It's life. It's happening right now as you're breathing. This is the most important moment. So when you are here, when you're paying attention, you're setting up your future. So if you're healthy while you do this, you're influencing your future in a healthy way. Yeah? Because, things happen out of the blue. That's the way nature is. There is no fate. There is no predestination. It just happens. So that means sometimes good things are going to happen to people just out of the blue. Sometimes not good things are happening to people. Yeah. So it's not about achieving any type of perfection. It's about living, learning. Then you can really love. As long as you focus on the outside and you communicate from the outside, meaning your skin color, your nationality, as long as you focus on that, there will be no peace on this earth. Because peace is within. It's not in your skin color. It's not in your religion. It's not in your philosophy or your political ideology. Yeah, it's a way of life, and it's within. It begins within. It's the most important thing. My focus is on a sacred center, which all of us have. And this means that, when you're talking about messages that are coming from there, that is for everyone. That's not just for Indians. That's not just for, certain group of people. Because the sacred center has nothing to do with ceremonies. Yeah, it does. You don't need to do the sun dance to get in touch with your sacred center. You don't need to go into a sweat lodge ceremony to get in touch with that sacred center. Those are different things. Yeah, and that has nothing to do with your sacred center. So in this way, this Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that the sacred center is the most important thing.